Sir Venkatanath sir, good evening sir.
Sir, good evening, Srinivas sir.
Sir, good evening sir. Is my voice audible to you sir?
Yes, sir, it's very clear, sir.
Okay sir. Sir, good evening sir,
Sir,
Venkatanath
open
sir.
your presentation, sir.
Okay sir. I am sharing my presentation. Is it visible sir?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Sir, Venkatanath sir,
Begin the sir,
start.
introduce sir and our team. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Yes, good evening, all of you. Welcome to all for today's faculty lecture series. So, today's resource person is Dr. P. Srinivas sir, Assistant Professor in Mechanical Engineering Department. So, now I invite Srinivas sir to please start the session, sir.
Sir, thank you sir. Good evening to everyone. Sir, now today I am going to tell the topic for mechanical engineers, especially regarding estimating and costing of a component. In the sense that component may be a small component or even it is a large component. Small component in the sense, for example, if you take the cost of a bolt and nut, we must estimate the cost. We must estimate the cost initially. So afterwards, suppose if you take a large component such as a vehicle, we must initially estimate the cost of the vehicle before launching it. So for this, there is a certain procedure. I think that this session will be useful for the mechanical students, so estimating and costing. So even for if you take some components, we can estimate it. For example, if you take labor cost, material cost, expenses cost, and some overhead cost will be there. So I will tell one by one. So what is the purpose of this estimation? So first of all, let me define what is meant by estimating. Estimating is an art of finding the cost which is likely to be incurred on the manufacture of an article before it is actually manufactured. Thus, it is the calculation of probable cost, probable cost, in the sense not exact cost, approximate cost of an article before the manufacturing starts. So it also includes the predetermination of the quantity as well as quality of the material as well as the labor required. So sometimes in many situations we require skilled labor. Suppose if we keep a skilled labor, he will charge more. In some cases, semi-skilled labor is sufficient. So in such a cases, the cost of the component that is manufactured will be reduced. So like this, we can choose. So these are some of the needs for estimation and costing, which involves this estimate give an idea of the cost of the work, and hence its feasibility can be determined whether the project could be taken up within the funds available or not. Estimate gives an idea of time required for the completion of the work. So here we are telling that it requires some time. Before the requirement of the time of manufacturing of a component, we will conduct work study. The work study in the sense, suppose if you want to manufacture a product, so what are the elements that are required, or what are the operations that are to be performed in order to get that final product for the completion stage or for the finished stage. So we must estimate, and also we must estimate if required, we will invite the tenders as well as, and we will send some quotations to arrange a contract. Estimate is also required to control the expenditure during the execution of the work. Estimate decides whether the proposed plan matches with the funds which are available or not. So now already I told about what is meant by estimating. So now aims. So what are the aims of estimating? So the aim of the estimating is it helps the owner in deciding the manufacturing and selling policies, to help in filling up the technique or the pending inquiries, to decide about the amount of overheads, which helps in comparing and checking the actual overheads of the factory. And also it gives an idea to help to decide whether a particular metal should be purchased from the market or to be manufactured. See, sometimes there will be ready-made products, small components. So we can purchase those components in the form of spares, and we can assemble them. Or suppose if the cost is less, we can assemble them. Otherwise, we will manufacture in our factory only. So like that we can decide. Next, coming to source, before that there will be some sources of errors in estimating. So before that we must know the qualities of a good estimator. So the qualities of the good estimator in the sense, an estimator must possess some essential qualities, such as he should have some background in a particular domain. In a particular domain, he must be able to read and understand the drawings and blueprints as well. So before estimating, he must go through the drawings. So earlier in the previous slide, I have shown that some drawings. So the engineer will provide that drawings based upon that drawings and the blueprints. He must have the estimator should have a good knowledge of different machines, their operations and operation timings for the products being manufactured. And another thing is he should have a good knowledge for the use of tools as well as the jigs and fixtures at convenient positions. He should not use these jigs and fixtures as he like, but the usage must be minimum. And another quality of a good estimator is he must have a good knowledge of market prices of different materials required to manufacture it. A estimator should have good knowledge about different allowances for time. In the sense, I told that work study. In work study, again it differs from a time study. So in time study, we will calculate the time required for manufacturing a component. For example, assume that the required job is to prepare an internal threads. So in order to prepare an internal threads, first of all, what we must do? We must perform drilling operation. After the completion of one drilling operation, then we must go for reaming operation. After the completion of a reaming operation, we must go for a tapping. So after the completion of all this, then we must note the time required for each operation. So for example, for drilling, it will take 1 minute. For the next operation, reaming, it will take 2 minutes. Next, for tapping, 3 minutes. And total, it will become 6 minutes. So not only considering the time required for the operations, but we must also consider some of the allowances in the form of time, which is called as fatigue allowance. Fatigue allowance. The operator, fatigue allowance in the sense, the operator cannot work continuously. So at the starting hours, he can work efficiently. So as the time proceeds, his efficiency may decrease. So that's why, keeping view of this, we will give, an estimator must give a fatigue allowance as well as tool changing allowance. I am telling here tool changing allowance. Suppose if we are using one machine for number of operations. For example, for the first time we are using a drilling machine. In the next operation, we are performing reaming operation, means there we must change the tool. So here it consumes some time. So tool changing allowance in the sense, allowance in the form of time, allowance in the form of extra time. So dimension allowance means allowance in the form of dimensions to the component. So here allowance means regarding time study, allowance means it is regarding to time, as well as grinding allowance. And finally, after the completion of the component, we must check it, which is called as checking allowance. So a good estimator must provide all these allowances. Then only we will get a full-fledged component as well as a quality component. So another quality of the estimator is he must cooperate with other departments such as sales department, planning department, and some other departments. It depends upon the small scale industry or large scale industry. So here, in some cases, what happens is some errors may occur in estimating, knowingly or unknowingly. Because why they are occurring means, so these errors can be classified into two types. The sources of errors in estimating. There may be some errors in estimating. These errors are of the following two types. The first one is unavoidable errors. So we cannot avoid them. The second one is avoidable errors. Now coming to unavoidable errors. So these are the errors which cannot be avoided. The name itself represents that unavoidable error means these are the errors which cannot be avoided. Some of the examples of such errors are machinery breakdown, power failure, accidents. So machinery breakdown. Suppose if a breakdown occurs while performing or while production is going on. So initially we will load the raw material. And afterwards we will perform some operations. Suppose if the product is in a semi-finished stage, at that time a failure may occur to the machine. So that means it will be treated as unavoidable error. So we must rectify it. So finally what happens? The cost of the product which is going to be manufactured will increase. Sometimes power failure. accidents may occur due to negligence or some other reasons, drop in the efficiency of workers. So I told we must give fatigue allowance for the worker. So drop in the efficiency of the workers means as at the fresh hours he will work efficiently. As suppose the working hours are increased, his efficiency may decrease. So we cannot avoid it. Drop in the efficiency of machines and the tools. Suppose if the machine is a new machine, its performance will be up to the mark. Whereas if you take old machines, it may not be up to the mark, as well as strikes. So avoidable errors. Some of the errors can be avoided. Some of the errors can be avoided by the estimator while preparing the estimates. These errors may occur due to less experience, carelessness, and hurriness in preparing the estimates. So these unavoidable errors, the reasons are poor analysis, omission of some of the factors, not considering the data up to date, repetition of some factors, So next one is estimating is completed. Next costing, estimating and costing. So after estimation, now here the real picture can be observed. Costing. So we must try to analyze the cost of the component which is going to be manufactured. So actually the word costing has been defined by the Institute of Work Accounts England as the technique and process of ascertaining costs. Now, costing is classifying, recording the appropriate allocation of expenditure for the determination of the cost of products or services and for presentation of suitably arranged data for the purposes of control and guidance of management. So here costing is the determination of an actual cost of an article after adding different expenses incurred in various departments. It may also be defined as a system which systematically records all the expenditure to determine the cost of manufactured products. It differs from estimating that costing is a determination of cost after knowing the expenditure incurred in various departments on the product, while estimating is the predetermination of cost based on the assumptions and the previous experiences. So estimating is the predetermination of cost based on the assumptions and previous expenses. Whereas costing is a determination of cost after knowing the expenditure incurred in various departments of the product. So that means we can straight away say that estimating is before the completion of the production of the component. Costing is the process of after estimating the cost after the completion of manufacturing of a component. So now coming to the aims. So what is the aim of this costing? So here it is given there are a number of aims to determine the cost of each article, to determine the cost incurred during each operation, to keep control over workers' wages, to provide information, to ascertain the selling price of the project. So like this, there are a number of aims. The next one is so how to estimate how to estimate this costing. So for this purpose, what are the elements of costing? What are the elements of costing that are involved? Elements of costing in the sense, generally there are three elements which we will call it as direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct expenses cost. Direct expenses cost. So all these are divided into three categories. So generally we will call it as a DMC, DLC, and DEC, direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct expenses cost. So here, this is very useful in any factory. The cost of the product is calculated so that the exact idea of the amount of profit can be made. We know that there are hundreds of different items of expenditures which are incurred in the factory, and all these are charged on the product manufactured. So not even a single paisa must not be misused. We must consider each and every single paisa, and finally it will be charged on the manufactured component. Which is called as the total cost of the component. So no item of expenditure should be left. So we should not forget about the cost involved at various stages. No item of expenditure should be left while calculating the total cost of the any product. This total cost is divided into different headings known as elements of cost. So for easy and accurate calculations, the cost of a product or the elements of cost is divided into three types: materials, labors, expenses. That means direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct expenses cost. So here, coming to materials, this is further classified into direct as well as indirect materials. So direct materials in the sense, these are the materials which when operated or processed in the factory through various stages from raw material stage to final shape of the main product or component part of the main product. See, a component or the main component will have sub-assemblies. So the direct material that is used is called as for the manufacturing is called as direct materials. Next, indirect materials means these are the materials which are essentially needed in various shops for helping the materials to be converted into the final useful shapes. So what is the difference between a direct and indirect forms of materials? For example, suppose a person continuously working on a particular machine. For example, you take a milling machine for manufacturing a gear which is made of cast iron. So now the cast iron is made with the direct material. The gear which is made with the cast iron is made with a direct material. But while performing the machining operation, lot of heat is generated. So hence, it is necessary to minimize the temperature at a work tool interface. Hence, we must use coolants. So these coolants will act as indirect material. The direct material is the material that is used for manufacturing of a gear. Indirect material means the coolant that is used in order to reduce the temperature at a work tool interface. So this coolant may be in the form of oils or grease or some other liquids. So next, coming to the labor cost, direct labor as well as indirect labor is completed. The direct labor, first of all, we will see about direct labor. The workers who actually works or process different materials manually or wish the aid of machines is known as direct labor. So the persons who participate or who engages for operating various production machines in machine shop or assembly shop, etc., is known as a direct labor. So indirect labor, any labor who helps the productive labor in performing their duties is known as indirect labor. The nature of their duties is such that their wages cannot be charged directly to a particular job because they are engaged at different at different places. For example, if you take foremen, supervisors, inspectors, chowkidars, gatekeepers, so all these persons will not work at one place in a month. So they will be shift duties for them. So we cannot estimate. So that's why such people are treated as indirect laborers. Whereas the direct labor means the persons who will work at a particular place regularly will be treated as a direct labor. Next, the third element is expenses. Direct expenses. Direct expenses. So in the direct expenses, the cost of in the previous topic itself, we have discussed the direct material cost as well as indirect labor cost. So straight away coming to direct expenses and indirect expenses. So the direct expenses, these are those expenses which can be changed directly to a particular job and are incurred for that specific job only. For example, cost of special jigs, fixtures, cost of some special patterns, and the cost of experimental work on a particular job. Indirect expenses. So factory expenses, administrative expenses, selling expenses, distribution expenses. So there will be some overheads. There will be some overheads also, such as overheads in the sense, if you take any industry, suppose we will give salaries to the operators or workers who are involved in the production. But whereas there will be one small section like thing which is called as office. So we must pay salaries for officers also. So that will be treated as a fixed overheads. That will be treated as a fixed overheads, which is called as salaries for officers. Next, variable overheads. These are those indirect expenses which vary with the volume of production. Example of these overheads are power or fuel consumed, repairs and maintenance, consumable or store supplies, expenses on tools. So now coming to the components of cost, prime cost. Prime cost means direct labor cost plus direct material cost plus direct expenses cost. If we add all these three, we will get a prime cost. Now, next one is the factory cost. Factory cost. Factory cost is equal to prime cost plus factory overheads. Office cost. So here it is, I think it is given here. Factory cost equal to prime cost plus factory overheads or factory expenses. Factory expenses. Next, office cost. Office cost is equal to factory cost plus administrative expenses. Total cost is equal to office cost plus selling expenses plus distribution expenses. So here, all this will be illustrated. The components of cost will be illustrated in the form of a block diagram. You see here, prime cost means which involves direct labor cost, direct material cost, direct expense cost, which is called as prime cost. If you add factory expenses or factory overheads, it is called as factory cost. So in order to calculate office cost, office cost is the sum of factory overheads plus administrative expenses. Similarly, total cost is the sum of office cost and selling and distributive costs. Finally, we will get total cost. Now, the selling price should have, so suppose we are selling a component, means we must sell with a certain profit, a 10% profit or a 15% profit. It depends upon the demand in the market. So we cannot sell a product, a component to a loss. So, but here for namesake, I have written it as a loss. Basically, we must add profit for the selling price. So in this manner, so here a small example is given. A small example is given having various types of costs. Stock of material. I have taken one academic year into or one financial year into consideration. A stock of material like that, materials purchased, rent, taxes, pay and commission to salesmen, like this. We have considered certain amounts. So our aim is to estimate the total cost. The total cost. So here the total cost that is incurred is 7,27,600 for a particular one, which is shown here. According to this data, it is 7,27,600. But we must add some profit to the total cost. So in the data itself, it is given as 9 lakhs. So here somewhere it is given as 9 lakhs as total cost. So that's why the selling price minus total cost equal to 1,72,400. So we will add some profit. We will add some profit. Finally, we will get the MRP rate of a component. So due to lack of time, I am unable to explain this overheads in detail. So we will consider this depreciation also into consideration. So depreciation means for as the usage of the machines increases, then its lifespan will decrease. So that is treated as a depreciation of a plant or of a machine also. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I request the participants. So if you are having any doubts, you can please ask.
Sir, the errors must be quantifiable or qualitative, sir. Sir.
Which one?
You said no errors, avoidable, unavoidable.
Avoidable errors and
Sir?
Avoidable errors in which case? In estimation,
In estimation.
In estimation,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, both qualitative as well as quantitative will be considered. Both will be considered.
So the avoidable errors can be eliminated, sir.
Yes, avoidable errors can be eliminated with by means of what we say, by means of checking the machine frequently, by maintenance.
Okay, frequent maintenance, you can reduce the errors.
Yes, we can reduce.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your nice presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for attending, for giving me this opportunity, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So I finally thank all the participants for attending this session. So tomorrow same time we again gather with new presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you and all. So with this we end the session of today.
Srinivas sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.